Hi, guys. It's Mike with Kiss Dog Training again, and today we're going to talk about reward schedules, fading the lure, and really what all that means is will I always have to use cookies? Do I use cookies? Do I not use cookies? Rewards. Okay, so obviously, if this is your first visit to the podcast or YouTube channel, you're going to find very quickly I'm a positive reinforcement trainer. I have a degree in psychology from the University of Kansas, Rock Chalk. I'm going to use what has proven over time to be the quickest way to get through to a dog, okay, which is reward what you want, redirect what you don't want, create alternative behaviors that are more rewarding than the bad behavior, and then we can live a harmonious life with the dogs. What this really means, though, is we're going to have to use treats, okay? And if we're going to use treats, how do we use them? Well, first of all, I have one of the coolest jobs in the world. I'm a dog trainer, and I don't do my job for free. I get paid for it. This is a job. I think it's important to realize that good behavior, manners, rules, routines, whatever you want to call it, is your dog's job, and we need to make sure that they have a paycheck. Now, at the very beginning, we're going to start with something called a continual reward schedule. And that means every time, let's take sit for example, every sit, every time the butt touches the ground, we follow it up with a reward. Okay? That reward becomes the paycheck for putting our rear end on the ground. The more we reward it, the more ingrained the behavior becomes. And even to the extent you'll hear me talk about auto sits a lot of times, where if a dog doesn't know what to do, I want them to default to just sitting. Again, if I reward that behavior enough, the dog figures out very quickly if I just put my butt on the ground, the chances of me getting a cookie go way up. So I'm going to keep offering the behavior that gets me cookies. I find that most of my clients, there's going to be three versions of a reward schedule. We just talked about continual. Next thing we're going to talk about is random. Then we're going to talk about differential. If you are one of my awesome best clients, you might be able to pull these stages off in about 3 to 4 months. So I would say average, most of my clients take about 6 months to be ready to move to the next one. So we got continual down. We've taught the dog that every time you put your rear end on the ground, you get a cookie, you get a paycheck, you get a reward. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I get paid, the dog should get paid for behavior as well. But now we start going into the idea of a random reward schedule, which means 50% of the time you get a cookie, 50% of the time you get a kind word or scruff behind the ears and some love and attention. So, what we're kind of doing here is starting to move that continual reward schedule into a random reward schedule because we're kind of fading that reward away. Okay? Think of it in the idea of a kid in elementary school, a first grader. There is nothing more important to a first grader than a really cool sticker and a smiley face on the paper. That's the continual reward schedule. If we were to put a really cool sticker and a smiley face on a senior in high school's paper on the War of 1812, they would probably look at it kind of as an insult, okay? By that time, they've learned they're working for something else. More on that to come. But let's say that second level or category is going to be that random rewarding where, yeah, 50% of the time you get a treat, 50% of the time you just get love and kindness and some pets and all that good stuff. So now we've done the first 6 months of continual reward schedule, and we're in the middle of doing 6 months of random rewarding. What happens in that next 6 months? Well, that's what we call a differential reward schedule, where we have to pick a number in our head, and let's say it's 20%. So now the dog will only get a treat 2 out of 10 times, 20%. The rest of the time is going to be love, attention, kindness. Now, the issue is when you were doing a random reward schedule, 50% of the time you got a cookie, 50% of the time you got a kind word or a touch. The problem is that you could be rewarding the worst sit or the best sit because it's random. When we get to this next level of differential, that 20% only happens the best 2 out of 10 times. So, in a sense, we're putting a point on the spear and saying only the best behavior is going to make me reach in my pocket and pull out the cookie. Where at the very beginning, it was continual. Every single time you did it right, you got a cookie. Then it was random. You never knew when it was coming. Then we're going to move on to the last stage and say 2 out of 10 20%, you're going to get a reward, but now you have to impress me to get the reward. So the answer to the question, will I always reward my dog, is yes, but you're only going to do it when the dog impresses you. But you can't start there because the dog hasn't figured it out yet. So it would be kind of like jumping straight to calculus before you taught the order of operations. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, so you know how to do the math problem. When you think about continual and random, that's teaching the skills of getting a reward for doing the right behavior. Then we get to the entire idea of a differential reward and only getting rewarded when you really impress me. Okay, now we can take this idea, and I'm going to shift it completely to the idea of lures, rewards, and bribes in training. This one I'm going to use the crate for. If I'm trying to get my dog to go in the crate, one of the first things a dog trainer is probably going to teach you is take the treat, throw it in the crate. The dog goes in the crate to get the reward. That's a lure. Okay, I'm luring the dog to a behavior. That's awesome. It's a great way. Luring is a wonderful way to teach skills. The problem is if you lure too long, lures become bribes. Okay, when you really think about it, the reward should come after the behavior, not before the behavior. Luring is before the behavior. I throw the treat in, dog goes in to get it. A reward would be, hey, Fido, go get in the crate. Dog gets in the crate. I reward the dog with the cookie. So the other thing I want to be careful of in this entire conversation of do I use treats, do I not use treats? Yes, we have the continual, the random, the differential, but even before all of that, you got to be thinking in your mind, am I rewarding the behavior or am I luring the behavior? Because eventually that dog's going to look at you and go, well, there's no treat in your hand. I'm not doing it. Because you've taught them that there's always a reward first, then I'll think about doing it. We want the dog to behave, then get the reward. So there's nothing wrong with luring, but I would say within half a dozen reps of the dog getting it right, now we need to kind of step back and get rid of the lure and make it a reward. And then the question comes, well, how the hell am I supposed to do that? With a crate, I love wire crates for this reason. You can use plastic ones too. It's just harder to get the treat in. Sometimes I'll actually drill a hole in the top of the plastic. But what I'm going to do is when I'm trying to fade that lure and make it a reward, I'm going to sneak to the back of the crate and I'm going to put the treat in the back. I'm going to kind of put it between two bars and I'm going to let the dog look at it. The dog's going to walk in the crate to take the reward. I might even have to start one step easier and I will still drop the treat in the crate, but I'm standing behind, so when I drop it in, the dog's coming towards me. I'm not standing by the gate, okay? But, the entire idea is don't let the lure turn into a bribe, okay? Make sure it's a reward. Get into a continual reward schedule. When the dog has a command down pat, we then switch to a random reward, so the dog can't predict when it's going to happen, so I better pay attention. And then finally going to a differential schedule, which means if you impress me, I'll give you a treat. In a sense, to make this hopefully simple to understand, think of a Coke machine. It is dollar in, pop out, dollar in, pop out. Okay, every time I put $1, I get a pop. Well, if I put $1 in a pop machine and nothing comes out, I get angry, I get mad, I get frustrated because you're not giving me what I expect. And that's where I think people using treats too long and leaning on it as a crutch can create that frustration of, well, I'm supposed to get a treat. Why am I not getting it? If we do it right, instead of the pop machine kind of idea, it's the Vegas principle. Okay? Vegas figured out a long time ago, if I can get you to put a quarter in a slot machine and you pull the thing, the little handle, a whole bunch of lights go off and you win 15 cents. People get all excited and stick another quarter in there without really realizing, hey, wait a minute, I put a quarter in, I lost 15 cents as it gives me a dime back. Okay? So we work for the chance of a reward, not the guarantee of a reward. And the end goal of working with food with a dog is to teach them I'm working for the chance of a reward, not the guarantee of a reward. If you do it wrong and you don't fade the lure, and you bribe, and you're always continually rewarding, and you don't work to the differential side of the reward, you've got a dog who expects the reward first and is working for the reward, not for the behavior. Hopefully that makes sense. This is a lot of psychobabble. If you've got any questions, what I want you to do is email us, info@kissdogtraining.com. You can contact us through YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. We're all over the place on social media. The reason we kind of did this was I did a video on tug and how to teach a dog to say please, take it, drop it, and work for, the game in a sense. And of course, I got that first question of, do I have to use food rewards? A lot of people think food rewards, it's bribing the dog. But hopefully now, maybe with this little video, you kind of think about the entire use of food more of a paycheck and more working for the chance of a reward, not the guarantee of a reward by the time we completely finish. It's the right thing to do. I would much rather reward my dog for making good choices than waiting for them to screw up and punishing them. So it's Mike with Kiss Dog Training. Another video will be coming soon. If you're curious about that tug video, just look up Tug of War on the YouTube channel, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks.